hospital. A place where medical care and treatment to patients with various health conditions, injuries, or illnesses are provided. Hospitals operate 24/7 to provide essential healthcare services, ensuring patients receive quality care and support. This story is about Malik Johnson, a middle-aged man, husband and father of two, sitting in a crowded waiting room at Oak Place General Hospital. He clutches his chest, breathing heavily, a pained expression on his face. He's dressed in work clothes, a construction uniform streaked with dirt, evidence of a long shift he didn't finish. Sweat drips down his forehead, and he glances at the wall clock anxiously. His wife, Amina, sits beside him, holding his hand, her face tight with worry. As the hours ticked by, his frustration grew. Despite his repeated attempts to convey his symptoms, the hospital staff seemed dismissive. A nurse appears, scanning the room. Her eyes glance briefly at Malik, but then move on. "Mr. Williams?" she calls, escorting another patient who arrived much later than Malik. Amina stands, frustration bubbling in her voice. "He's been waiting here for hours. He needs to be seen." The nurse gives a practiced smile. "We'll get to him soon." Malik clenches his jaw, the sharp pain radiating through his chest again. He knows something is seriously wrong, but the minutes stretch into hours. Finally, after waiting several hours, Malik was ushered into an examination room. A doctor, Dr. Whitfield, a white man in his mid-50s, enters the examination room. His tone is polite but dismissive. "It's likely stress or overexertion," he says after a brief check. "We see it all the time. Take it easy, drink fluids, you'll be fine." Malik tries to explain. "This isn't just stress. I know my body. I think it's my heart." Dr. Whitfield waves him off. "If it gets worse, you can come back. But right now, you're stable." Malik protested, explaining the severity of his symptoms, but Dr. Whitfield remained unconvinced. "Take some rest, and you'll be back to normal soon," he advised before quickly exiting the room. Malik stares at him, stunned. There's no offer for tests, no concern, just the implication that he's overreacting. Malik left the hospital, feeling defeated and unheard. That night at home, Malik's condition worsens. Amina finds him collapsed on the living room floor, clutching his chest. She screams his name, panic flooding her as she calls 911. The paramedics arrived promptly, but Malik's condition had deteriorated rapidly. They rushed him to the hospital. Malik survives, but barely. He had suffered a heart attack that could have been prevented with timely care. In the days that follow, Malik lies in a hospital bed, hooked up to machines. He slipped into a coma, leaving Amina and their children in anguish. Amina sits at his side, her eyes swollen from crying. Dr. Garcia, a younger, empathetic physician of Latina descent, enters. She gently explains that Malik's heart attack was avoidable. "If you'd been treated earlier, this could have been caught. I'm sorry." Amina's voice trembles with rage. "Sorry doesn't fix this. He came in earlier. No one listened." Dr. Garcia looks uncomfortable, but not surprised. "You're not the first patient this has happened to," she admits. "We've had complaints." Amina's eyes narrow. "Complaints? How many?" Dr. Garcia hesitates before answering. "Enough to know this isn't an isolated case." Amina's grief transforms into determination. She knows Malik was denied proper care, not because of the hospital's workload, but because of something deeper. Days turned into weeks, and Malik remained unresponsive. The family's hopes dwindled, as medical tests revealed severe internal damage, likely caused by a treatable condition Dr. Whitfield had overlooked. Tragically, Malik never recovered. His family's lives were forever changed, their grief compounded by the knowledge that timely intervention might have saved him. Amina starts digging, determined to uncover the truth. Over the next few weeks, Amina reaches out to other patients, people who have quietly endured similar treatment. Some are reluctant to speak, afraid of repercussions, but others, like Tasha, a young black mother whose infant was denied proper neonatal care, are eager to share their stories. "They said my baby didn't need an incubator," Tasha tells Amina. 2 days later, he was back in the ER, fighting for his life. Amina also connects with James, an older black man with diabetes who was dismissed when he came in with foot pain. "They didn't even look at my chart," he says bitterly. "I lost 2 toes because of their oversight." As the stories pile up, Amina realizes this isn't just negligence. There's a pattern of bias baked into the hospital system. With the help of Tasha, James, and other patients, she organizes a small group to confront the hospital administration. Malik's younger brother, who also lives with them, Ahmed, filled with anger from his only brother's passing, insists on joining. "If they did this to my brother and to these people telling their stories, there is no end in sight, and they'll do it to someone else," he tells Amina. "We can't let it slide." The group, gaining access through Tasha, meets in a church basement, working late into the night to organize their efforts. Winnie, a local community organizer, joins them, helping shape their message. "We need to hit them where it hurts," she says. "Public pressure, media attention, make it impossible for them to ignore us." With Winnie's guidance, they create a plan. The group gathers statements from dozens of patients, documenting their experiences with medical neglect. They compile statistics showing how Black patients are disproportionately dismissed and undertreated in comparison to white patients. The group's first public action takes place on a sunny afternoon outside the hospital. They hold signs reading, "Healthcare is a right," and "Stop the bias." Amina stands at the forefront, microphone in hand, her voice clear and steady. She shares Malik's story and calls for an overhaul of hospital policies. The crowd grows as passers-by join, and local reporters cover the protest. Inside the hospital, administrators scramble. Dr. Whitfield watches the protest from his office window, his face a mask of discomfort. The hospital's PR team releases a vague statement, denying systemic bias while promising to review procedures. But the protesters aren't satisfied with empty words. The turning point comes when a whistleblower, who insisted that their identity remain hidden, and for this purpose they would bear another name, Nurse Thompson, steps forward. They approached the media after that protest, and the media agreed to protect this individual's identity. The individual provides internal emails showing that the hospital has long ignored complaints of racial bias in care. They knew. Nurse Thompson tells the media, and they chose not to act. With public pressure mounting, the hospital's board of directors is forced to act. They hold a press conference announcing new policies, mandatory bias training for staff, an independent review of all patient complaints, and the hiring of a diversity officer to oversee reforms. Amina, Ahmed, Malik's younger brother, and their group attend the press conference. The administrators speak about change, but the group knows this is only the beginning. As the reporters swarm, Amina makes a quiet promise to herself. She will keep fighting until real, lasting change happens. At least, this is the little she can do to put a smile on Malik's face, one last time, wherever he is. Malik is now laid to rest amidst sorrow, pains, and so many questions left unanswered. In the weeks that follow, Oak Place General Hospital begins implementing the new policies. Dr. Whitfield is quietly removed from his position. Dr. Garcia is promoted, tasked with leading the diversity efforts, and Amina continues to meet with other patients, ensuring their voices remain heard. Ahmed, who has always been involved in Malik's kids' lives, looks at Amina with admiration. "You did it," he says as they sit outside with the children, Jamila and Amir, one evening watching the sunset. Amina smiles, resting her back on the chair. "We did it," she corrects him. Their fight isn't over, but they've taken the first step toward a fairer, more just healthcare system. And they know they won't stop until every patient, no matter their race, receives the care they deserve. Weeks pass, and while the hospital begins showing signs of progress, the journey toward equal healthcare is anything but smooth. Some staff embrace the changes, but resistance emerges from others. Ahmed and Amina quickly realize that implementing new policies is only half the battle. Ensuring they're followed is the real challenge. One morning, Amina receives a call from Tasha. She's upset and frustrated. "They gave me the wrong medication for my baby," Tasha says, her voice trembling. "And when I tried to correct them, they acted like I was the problem." Amina listens intently, her heart heavy. "We'll handle this," she reassures Tasha. "They're not going to get away with it this time." Determined, Amina reaches out to Dr. Garcia, who has become an ally and advocate within the hospital. Dr. Garcia is outraged by the incident and promises to investigate. "It's not enough to change policies. We need accountability," she says firmly. The Johnson family filed a lawsuit against Oak Place General Hospital, alleging negligence and medical malpractice. The group of activists reconvenes, more motivated than ever. Amina speaks passionately at the meeting. We knew this wasn't going to be easy. Change isn't just about announcements, it's about follow-through. We have to keep the pressure on. Winnie proposes a bold next step. We need to demand patient oversight, an advisory board made up of patients, with real power to review cases and hold the hospital accountable. The group agrees. Ahmed and Amina work closely with Dr. Garcia, who pushes the idea internally. Predictably, the hospital administrators push back. We can't have patients dictating medical decisions, one board member scoffs during a closed-door meeting. But the activists don't back down. They organize a second rally, larger and more coordinated. This time, they aren't just demanding reforms, they're demanding a seat at the table. The media catches wind of the struggle, and news outlets start airing stories about systemic bias in healthcare beyond just the one hospital. Other patients from different cities come forward, sharing eerily similar stories. The movement grows, becoming a national conversation about healthcare inequality. At the next board meeting, under intense public scrutiny, the hospital's leadership reluctantly agrees to establish the advisory board. Amina and Winnie are both selected as members, along with other community representatives and medical professionals committed to change. In the months that follow, the board starts reviewing cases like Tasha's and others that were previously ignored. Policies are not only revised, but actively monitored. Doctors and nurses undergo rigorous bias training, and staff who refuse to comply are replaced. Ahmed, Winnie, and Amina's relentless efforts inspire other hospitals to follow suit, creating a ripple effect across the healthcare system. One evening, as Amina prepares for a board meeting, Ahmed surprises her with a bouquet of flowers. "Just wanted to say thank you," he says softly, "for fighting for my brother, Malik, who passed, for Tasha, James, and for all of us." Amina smiles, feeling the weight of their journey, but also a sense of accomplishment. "We did this together," she replies, "and we're just getting started." The two share a quiet moment, the kind of peace that comes from knowing you've made a difference. The fight isn't over, but they're no longer fighting alone. Months pass, and the advisory board begins to make tangible progress. The hospital starts publishing quarterly reports that track patient outcomes, ensuring transparency. Staff evaluations now include assessments on patient interaction and bias awareness, a first for the institution. Malik's death was a big blow to Amina and Ahmed, but life slowly finds its rhythm again, though Amina's fight for change remains relentless. She balances her duties on the board, her family, and the growing movement for equitable healthcare with precision. Driven by the need to ensure no one else suffers the way Malik did and died in the process. During one meeting, Amina notices resistance within the advisory board itself. Some hospital representatives treat the new policies as a mere formality, while others, like Rachel, a seasoned nurse, complain that the changes create extra paperwork and paralyze the real work of saving lives. Amina remains composed. "Policies mean nothing if they're not put into practice," she calmly tells the room. "This isn't about red tape. It's about ensuring that everyone who walks through these doors is treated with dignity." Ahmed, attending the meeting as an observer, nods in support. "The patients aren't obstacles," he adds. "We're the reason this hospital exists." Later that week, Amina finds herself at the bedside of another patient, an elderly man named Mr. Roberts, whose family says he was ignored for hours in the emergency room. Mr. Roberts' daughter, Lena, sits beside him, her frustration mirroring what Amina felt months ago. "They said he wasn't an emergency, but look at him. He could have died." Amina listens closely and promises to escalate the case. Mr. Roberts' story is all too familiar, a reminder that the work isn't done. She realizes the movement needs to expand beyond individual complaints. It must address the systemic roots of healthcare inequality, something far deeper than just one hospital's policies. Meanwhile, tensions grow within the hospital. Dr. Whitfield, who was quietly removed, spreads rumors among his old colleagues, suggesting that the movement is tearing the hospital apart. A few staff members share his sentiment, believing the changes are unnecessary and divisive. Dr. Garcia finds herself under immense pressure from both her peers and the board. One day, Dr. Garcia visits Amina's home to share her frustration. "It's exhausting, Amina," she confesses. "I thought we were making progress, but now I feel like I'm swimming upstream. Every step forward feels like 2 steps back. Amina offers a knowing smile. That's how change works. It's messy, slow, and uncomfortable, but you don't stop just because it's hard. With renewed determination, Amina and Dr. Garcia strategize on how to push through the resistance. They decide to invite external auditors, a third-party organization specializing in healthcare equity, to assess the hospital's compliance with new policies. This move enrages the hospital's leadership, but the public pressure forces them to agree. The audit results are damning. It reveals patterns of racial bias in treatment decisions, staffing, and even in the allocation of resources within the hospital. The auditors recommend sweeping reforms, and the hospital is forced to comply or risk losing accreditation. The media catches wind of the report, and the story explodes. News anchors discuss the findings on Newstime TV, and healthcare professionals across the country are forced to confront uncomfortable truths. The movement gains momentum beyond what Amina and the group could have imagined. Hospitals across the region begin reviewing their own practices, and activists in other states reach out to Amina for advice. One evening, Ahmed, Amina, and Tasha are invited to a town hall hosted by the mayor of the city where they live. Amina is asked to speak, and the room falls silent as she steps to the podium. This fight isn't just about one hospital, she says. It's about a system that was never built to serve everyone equally. We are not asking for special treatment. We are demanding what should have been ours all along: respect, dignity, and the right to live. The audience erupts in applause, and Ahmed's clap was the loudest, pride radiating from him. After the town hall, the mayor meets with Amina privately, proposing a citywide task force to tackle healthcare inequities. Your voice carries weight, the mayor tells her. We want you to lead this effort. As Amina considers the opportunity, she still feels the pain of losing her husband, Malik. Ahmed encourages her. This is bigger than us now, he says. If anyone can make a difference, it's you. Amina agrees, and soon she finds herself in a new role, chairing the task force, working with city officials, medical experts, and community leaders. Her days are filled with meetings, planning sessions, and strategy discussions. Yet through it all, Amina, Winnie, and Ahmed remain grounded, their bond strengthening through the challenges they faced together. One evening, as they sit on their porch beneath a starlit sky, when a family member visited, Ahmed and Amina reflect on their journey. You know, Ahmed says with a grin, you've become a real force to be reckoned with. Amina laughs softly. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Their peaceful moment is interrupted by a phone call, this time from Winnie. We did it, Winnie exclaims over the phone. The state just passed legislation requiring all hospitals to implement bias training and transparency protocols. Your work set the standard. Amina and Ahmed exchange joyful glances. This victory isn't just personal, it's a win for countless others who've been denied care, dismissed, or mistreated. The following week, Amina attends a press conference where the new healthcare legislation is signed into law. As she watches the governor's pen glide across the document, she feels a wave of emotion, pride, relief, and hope for the future. I wish this didn't have to take my husband's life for us to get here, she said. But she knows the work isn't over. Change, she's learned, is a journey without a finish line. Yet for the first time, she feels they are on the right path. Amina walks out of the State House, Ahmed and Winnie by her side. They step into the sunlight, a new chapter ahead of them, one filled with hope, hard work, and the promise of a better future for everyone. As they leave the State House, the sky seems brighter, and a gentle breeze stirs around them. A crowd of supporters gathers outside, holding signs that read, "Equal care for all, and health care is a right, not a privilege." Amina pauses for a moment, scanning the faces of those around her, many of whom she had fought for, cried with, and empowered. Tasha stands near the front, holding her baby, who giggles in her arms. Winnie gives Amina a proud nod, her eyes shining with gratitude. Ahmed leans in and whispers, "This is what change looks like, messy, but beautiful." Amina takes a deep breath and steps forward, addressing the crowd one last time. "This victory isn't just for us," she says, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "It's for every patient who was dismissed. It's for every person who was told their pain didn't matter. And it's for the generations to come, who will walk into hospitals expecting care and getting it without question, without bias, without fear. The crowd erupts in applause, cheers ringing out like thunder in the streets. Winnie wraps her arm around Amina, pulling her close, and gave her a hug. They know that the fight isn't over. There will always be challenges, always new battles. But for now, they embrace the moment. A powerful reminder that when people stand together, they can move mountains. One final time, Amina, Ahmed, Winnie, and their allies walk forward, into the future, into the light, leaving behind a legacy of resilience, justice, and hope. This beautiful life story teaches us the power of community and collective action. Amina's journey shows that individual voices can spark change, but collective action sustains it. By uniting patients, activists, and allies, the fight for equitable healthcare gained unstoppable momentum. Her resilience in the face of resistance, and in the moment of her pain from her husband's death, she was not deterred. Change is never easy, and Amina faced opposition from within the system she sought to reform. Her story highlights the importance of persistence, even when progress feels slow or setbacks arise. Empathy and allyship can break barriers, as we have seen from Ahmed's support, Winnie's allyship, and Dr. Garcia's commitment show that change is possible when people step out of their comfort zones and fight for justice, even when it's not their personal battle. Policy changes alone are not enough. The story emphasizes the need for transparency, third-party audits, and oversight to ensure reforms are not only implemented, but sustained over time. This is why systemic change requires accountability. Representation also matters. Amina's leadership on the advisory board and task force shows the importance of marginalized voices in decision-making spaces. The movement proved that those affected by injustice must lead the fight for reform. Hope is a driving force. Even amid struggle, Amina and Malik's story carries a message of hope. It reminds us that no matter how deep-rooted bias may seem, change is always possible through courage, unity, and perseverance. This story serves as both a resolution and an invitation, reminding everyone that the story of justice doesn't end here, and the fight for equality continues. Jamila and Amir grew up with a void in their lives, but honored their father's memory through academic excellence community service. After 7 years of litigation, they received a settlement, but no amount of money could bring Malik back. Dr. Whitfield faced disciplinary action and mandatory additional training, but never truly grasped the gravity of his mistake. The Johnsons' experience served as a poignant reminder. In healthcare, listening is just as essential as healing.